to jump right into our track safety panel. And we're doing everything diplomatically here at the Racetrack Business Conference. So we're doing all the introductions in alphabetical order. So I apologize to Mr. Zaffelli in advance. So our first panel is our track safety panel. Scott Elkins is the Chief Operating Officer of the Motorsport Safety Foundation, which we have talked a lot about on RaceTalkRadio.com and on Track Source Radio over the years. Scott's background with IMSA, CART, NASCAR, I could go on and on. So many different forms of racing and different sanctioning bodies that you've been involved with. It makes you uniquely qualified for your role talking about track safety and working to improve the safety in the sport throughout with your work with the Motorsport Safety Foundation. Their mission statement is simple, folks. It's to unite the racing community under the single purpose of improving safety standards in all forms of motorsport. Ray Smith in the middle is the president at Smith-Benz. Ray is the expert at making sure the fans stay safe and the competitors stay safe. Well, going ahead and giving us a sport that is safe with the best safety systems for major tracks and temporary road courses. They've got the solutions to help you. They're celebrating 38 years in the business, and their list of clients is like the who's who of the industry. And finally, Jarno Zaffelli, the director of Dromo Circuit Design. Jarno is on the cutting edge of safety technology. Dromo's DroCast software system is a state-of-the-art crash prediction system capable for race cars and motorcycles. And Jarno will be talking all about that. I learned so much from our interchange leading up to RTBC 2015. So the big question that I have, and we're going to start out with Jarno on this one. It's all about technology and track design. Can we use knowledge from new track builds to improve the safety at older facilities?
Good morning, everybody. Yes, definitely we could, but we prefer to have a similar approach on old tracks as the same as the new one. When we design something or we have to make an audit to an existing track, we just use systems that calculates and predict what can happen in a layout, and we try to apply best practices and a best solution like the one that are presented here today in RTBC. And so it is a comprehensive way to assess all the tracks. We can design a new track with new concept based on best practices that we collect and we test worldwide. But we can also go on traditional tracks like we did, for example, in Monza, Imola, Mugello, Donington Park, just to say something. And we apply the best practices we found or we developed into the existing facility. This relies to a lot of improvement on efficiency. I can just make an example on runoff design. Many road courses in the recent years, like Watkins Glen's, now just paved the runoff, outside to fix the things for cars. In our experience, we discovered that it is possible to design something like composite runoffs that has got gravels and asphalt that are suitable for all categories and avoid, for example, to cars to stuck into the gravel because they are calculated and dimensioned on purpose.
And Ray, we were talking leading up to RTBC about how you guys, with installing the safer barriers, have learned from some of the new tracks, such as Iowa Speedway.
It's true. Good morning. Thank you for letting me come on up here. Probably in our third generation of safer barrier now. Started here in Indy with collaboration with NASCAR. And I think the operative word here is collaboration. Now, if we're talking about Iowa, we're now putting safer barrier where you don't need a concrete barrier at all to attach to the surface. Iowa's state-of-the-art, is a phenomenal setup. We're now doing safer barrier now on temporary road circuits, on removable barriers. We're having it now where it's freestanding. Without the fence system, we do the crash fence, the wheel fence, and the safer barrier together, which Iowa has. So we're seeing the third generation now come of safer barrier, and it's an exciting way we're going. And we see it now, we're now in Europe. So I think back to collaboration, what started here at Indy and in Daytona is spreading out now. We're talking about the track we're working on together now in Europe. It's pretty exciting. And what we can learn, back to your first question, from the new tracks that have done more, our technology is such that the cars are faster, the tracks are faster, but our safety systems haven't kept pace. We all know this. Some tracks have stepped up to the plate.
And one of the things that we love to do here at RTBC, folks, is we love to get the conversation started. So even though I might aim a question at you, if there's a follow-up comment, guys, please don't be shy. You don't have to wait on the interrogator to come to you with another question. But Scott, one of the things I love about the Motorsport Safety Foundation is you guys are all about education, and we can never stop learning. How can we, though, as a sport, be all in on promoting that concept of best practices?
Thanks again for being here, letting us be here today, and I feel a little bit, I'm a non-expert compared to these two guys, is what I feel like, to be honest. So, it's a difficult thing, I think, and I'll answer your question in kind of a roundabout way because that's the best way to do it. Using technology, utilizing the latest and greatest items for track safety is what everybody in the room wants to do. I think everybody absolutely wants to do that. The difficulty is that many of the new systems and even some of the old systems are incredibly expensive. And that's the difficulty that I think every person that operates a racetrack has an issue with in terms of, I think if every racetrack and every person in this room that operates a racetrack could put the latest safer barriers, and whether it was a safer barrier or Tech Pro or the GeoBreak fence or whatever it is, they would put it up and they would do it. And I think the difficulty is that they also have a business to run. And it makes it really hard to justify the business and go out and spend the really high dollars. And while it's always a frightening thing to talk about safety compared to cost, I think it's a realistic problem that we have in the industry. And it's something that has to be considered. So, the foundation, what we try to do in terms of education is that we try to provide a direct path in some ways for racetracks to try to help upgrade their safety if they can. So as a nonprofit foundation, what we try to do is we try to go out and we try to help people find funding to make those upgrades. It's not easy, I'll be honest, we haven't done it yet. It's a program that we have in place, but it's something that I think it's a way to try to solve the problem that most people have, which is, we'd all love to do it, but the business model of the track doesn't allow it. So, sorry, that wasn't a direct answer, but more of a statement. Thanks.
I have a comment on this, just to support you. The point of cost is a key one. There are many circuit designers out there. I have many colleagues here listening. And everybody of us knows that a safety system or a design can be, a lot expensive or a lot cheaper, depending on how you design it, what you want to achieve, which are your target. The point is that every track, being a speedway, an oval, a road course, a drag strip, has got different business, different targets, and the work that they are doing as a Motorsport Safety Foundation is in the right way, because we think as well that the thing we have to do is the dialogue with the track operators. The point is that it is impossible to force, in my opinion, a safety, what I can say, in English is not always easy, a safety, how I can say, safety mind, can I say, an attitude, okay, from track operators, because The safety attitude is something that is subjective. What we are trying to do is to give to truck operators some objective analysis to understand where I can have to put my money, not to waste it. I can make an example. We see many times clients that are coming to us with design made by other circuit designers that say to us, okay, we have 4 miles of debris fences to put everywhere, is a huge cost. Or they asked us to understand if the barrier they have in the design are proper or properly positioned, dimensioned, and so on. And many times we understand that we can decrease the liability of the truck operators doing less. Many times our experience teaches us that we have to do less in the better place instead of doing whatever we can. It's better to do the right spots and demonstrate that we assess objectively our choices.
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things I love about my role here as the MC is I get to play game show host, if you will. It's true. So I'm going to throw the first toss-up question out, and we can decide which gentleman wants to answer it first. How can we convince track operators and promoters that they do need to always be looking to make changes to make their track safer? It's not inexpensive. Right. For $50.
I think it goes back to, it's a three-legged stool, and it's not convincing, it's dialogue, as you said earlier. You have to put together a team. It is a very cost prohibitive. You have a smaller track or smaller venue. Everybody wants to be safe. But I think you need to point out to them the final balance. I think you need to have the owner, you need to have a designer, engineer, and then you need the facilitator. And for the three of them to get together and go, this is what I recommend, what's it going to cost? Okay, after they fell on the floor and you pick them up and you put them back in the chair, okay, where can we trim, what will work? I think they run a risk, maybe this is going in everybody's mind, what exposure do we have as track owners if we hire a designer and an engineer, and the what if we had that horrific accident and someone's injured, and then you have a paper trail saying, you had these people come, thank you, and they told you what to do, and you didn't do a thing. Help me out here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most difficult parts of what happens, and I've been fortunate enough to be on many track inspections with Charlie Whiting and other guys from the FIA, and you go through and you see things, and obviously they're bigger tracks. They're tracks that, road courses, because that's been my primary background. But you go and it's very difficult when you have a conversation where you say, you look at a particular corner, and you have a conversation about that corner, and unfortunately it's never anything that gets put in writing, and it's never anything that gets done because of the litigious society that we live in here in the States. It makes it very difficult. You guys know this problem way better than I do. So what Ray is saying in terms of having a paper trail, it makes it difficult, and it's almost, it goes to a larger discussion that I don't think we want to get into right now, but there is a concern in the United States that with this, in some levels there are some specific quote-unquote guidelines for racetracks, but for a lot of other racetracks, there aren't. Dirt ovals, not much there. Even asphalt ovals, paved ovals. Certain racetracks that can or can't, whether it, and forgive me for speaking kind of road course based, because again, that's what my background is, but SCCA has some track guidelines, FIA has some track guidelines, but good luck finding them. I don't think anybody can actually see what they are. It's difficult, Well, you have to ask the right people. I have a copy of them, of course, I'm sure you do too, but it's not something that's publicly available, so that makes it difficult as well. So, what the right thing is to do is the hardest approach, and I think the general gist of what both Jarno and Ray is saying, and I'll put my hand up and agree with it, I think that trying to do something is better than doing nothing. And even if it's a small change, and I'll use an example, and then I'll stop talking because I don't want to bore you all to death, but a primary example is something that I see at racetracks all the time, which is you go to a corner and you see a set of tires. and the tires are basically not put together properly. They're not put together in a way that's actually going to expend energy when a vehicle makes contact. And what I mean by that is, and I'll try to use my hands to describe it, but the tires themselves are maybe stacked on top of each other, where they're just interlaced with each other. They're not bolted. They're not placed into what we typically call a pallet that ties them together. So what happens is, if a car does go into that corner, what happens is the tires just basically fall apart. That doesn't help the incident at all. Now, that type of an improvement, it's hardware. It's labor and bolts. That's not a hard change to make for a racetrack. But I think going back, and again, I'm sorry to ramble on, going back to what Dennis said, it's an educational thing. Maybe some of the tracks that have that issue, they don't even know how they can make a proper tire pallet. And it's a simple drawing that I think all of us have. I think we'd all be happy to share it. But it's little things like that, I think, that make it really difficult in what's going on. And sorry, I covered 7 different things there and rambled a bunch, so forgive me.
In this industry, we have a history of being reactive instead of proactive. We wait until there's a crisis, then we fix it. Jarno, I want you to talk a little bit about your software package that you have that sort of predicts the outcomes of crashes, because I think this is brilliant, and I really think it's going to change the way we function as an industry when it gets adopted. And before you answer, Ray, I need to steal your microphone because we're going to come out to the audience and we're going to let you guys share. But Jarno, please talk a little bit about the software package that your company has developed.
Well, it goes back to 2004. We were looking for our first design, and we were looking for FIA guidelines and FIM guidelines, and we discovered that the guidelines in reality are only something that are built to take away the liability, possibly from the sanctioning bodies. It's not something that works beautifully and always for every racetrack. So what we started to develop was a system that is data-driven. We collected since 2000 more than 30,000 crashes and analyzed them and put them in the systems for bikes, cars, over racing, road courses, and so on. And we started to model a prediction system because we discovered that the geometry of the track we design is strongly connected to the probability that something happened. You know, everybody, that risk is probability per magnitude. So we know when somebody exits in a runoff, which is the impact speed, the likely one. If we know the probability, we can just have meter by meter in a track a risk index. Point is that US lacks of standardization. Every racetrack, every course, every speedway has got his own, well, except the ISC, because they are 10 or 12, the same owner. But every other track has got his own knowledge how to do things. And it's like a kingdom, you know. Every track is a different kingdom. It's the same in Europe. It's the same. The difference is that FIA and FIM are stronger there, and so they promoted with FIA guidelines and racing series to have a standardization, a forced standardization. So what we are doing with the system is just to take an existing or a new design, and we understand which are the standards that a single track has to apply versus the best practices. We are incorporating in reality FIA guidelines, FIM, SCCA, and so on. When we are talking about design of a tire barrier, it's right, we can give you the FIA suggested stack of tires, but it's not ideal, because we know that there are different systems, cheaper to build. It seems like a tire barrier, but it's different. So why to use a guideline that is a guideline, it's not a rule, when we know that there are more efficient ways in both terms of performance, expenses, positioning, and so on. So that's it. I'm open to receive any question. But again, to us, the key is to understand the needs of the single truck operator, because you are all the same, you are truck operators, but everybody's view is different. Different trucks, different categories, different business, different models, and we have to fit all together. One last thing about the cost. Many times the truck operators are scared about the consultancy fees, because generally in design the consultancy fees are related to how many things we design. For example, we are building 1 million of debris fences, and we ask for a percentage depending on how many safety system we put in. That's why when you do audits, safety audits, we just have fixed fees. Because we deliver a solution to the truck operators without having to be concerned about hiring a consultant that is asking to put more safety just because he is raising his parcel. You know what I mean? This to me is the most fair thing we can do, and to understand that, to show you that we are on the same side. We are just delivering and spreading the knowledge between the truck operators, keeping the confidentiality between one and the others. We are just wanting to help the truck operators.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to this event. I think everybody here really goes and enjoys the safety aspect, because that's, again, a very important part of our business, and really has been one of the core panels we've had each of the years in here. A couple of things that really did come out and talked about, obviously cost is a big thing. You know, obviously in racing teams and try to get speed, but from an operator standpoint, safety in their facility is a big deal. We talked about the ability to raise money or to have funds available to do these improvements. And Scott, you had mentioned that you're working on it. One innovative way here in the States that I've seen on the motorcycle side is the application of air fences. That obviously is something that they are working on, not as well capitalized. But can you speak to that, or other ways that there would be for facility operators to allocate or raise money and then utilize that on an ongoing basis to improve their facilities?
Yeah, sure. I don't have a deep, in-depth knowledge of what motorcycle racing does with the air fence, but I have a pretty good idea, I think, and some of you can correct me that when I'm wrong. But I know that in a lot of cases, some of the motorcycle sanctioning bodies actually purchase the air fence themselves and travel with them. So when they come to your facility, they actually bring safety systems with them, which is a very unique approach. I think it's easy to do with an air fence because it is collapsible, a little bit more portable. Very difficult, virtually impossible to do that with a safer barrier. You can do it with some other things. The problem that we've always seen with the products that you use at a racetrack, whether it's a concrete barrier, whether it's Armco, whether it's Safer, whether it's Tech Pro, even fencing to some extent, not as much, is it's very difficult to transport. So, you know, if you look at a concrete block that's used for, say, at Long Beach when they build that racetrack, you can put about 5 of those blocks on a flatbed truck because it becomes a weight problem versus a quantity problem. So that makes it very, very difficult. You know, I think so in motor racing, I suppose, it makes it a much more difficult task to replicate the motorcycle model because the barriers and things like that are not portable. It's very difficult to do that. So I think what happens is then you get to the point of where you need to try to raise funds for yourself to try to justify it. And in that area, you know, everybody that runs a racetrack does the same thing. You're looking for sponsorship. You know, our approach has only been to say, okay, direct the sponsorship to a particular location on the racetrack. To say that, you know, turn 17 is a corner that we've installed Tech Pro, and by the way, that's brought to you by, you know, JD Power or something like that. That's the approach that we've tried to take. I know that most of the sponsorships that you guys have is a generalized sponsorship to where they get sign locations and things like that, where you take that revenue and you utilize it to operate your bottom line. You run the racetrack. The approach that we've tried to take in operating as ourselves as a nonprofit is to try to funnel those funds through us as a nonprofit to try to help make those changes at your racetrack. Granted, the revenue doesn't go to you, it just goes directly to the costs of the barriers or whatever it is that you create. Again, it's an idea that we have. We haven't put it into practice yet. I'm open to have discussions about it, but it's very difficult. And we all know whether it's trying to do this new idea for funding for barriers or getting an automotive sponsor for your track to get a push vehicle or a safety vehicle. It's very, very difficult in today's marketplace. We know that. So I hope that answered the question, Tim.
Questions from the class? Okay. Well, while I'm heading up there, I'm going to ask a question.
Can I just add?
Oh, absolutely.
What Scott mentioned. There is a body similar to the your foundation, and it's the Road Racing World has a foundation that works with tracks and track day organizations and sanctioning bodies and all that assist in providing air fence and you or in the different types, whether it be inflatable and or the block type.
Yeah, that's motorcycle centric is what they do. You're absolutely right. I should have mentioned that. That's a good point. Thanks, Mitch.
And before I go ahead and grab our next question here, we talked about the reactive versus proactive. And Ray, I'm going to put you on the spot here. After Kyle Busch's crash out at Daytona, it's almost like the whole sport of NASCAR caught religion. Did we really get religion? Are we going to see more changes, or are we going to see a lot and then wait for the next accident before we react again?
Tough question. Yes, they reacted. It's like drinking from a fire hydrant. We put up miles of safer barrier. I'm going to send them a honey baked ham. But I've got to tell you, it is like we are reactive. You know, if I'm watching a race and I'm not there and there's a horrific accident, I'm hearing from an engineer that afternoon, and it's a blessing. And the people that I've been working with do react, and they react not with a Band-Aid. They're doing bigger and bigger jobs. I see more safety now in technology. The technology and safety is catching up with our cars and the track designs. I'm glad to say. I mean, with safer barrier, we're coming up in newer ways. You know, we're getting into the European market. We're going to see what's going on in Formula One. So yeah, we're stepping it up.
For tracks that do motorcycles and cars, how much is the safer barrier relevant to a motorcycle hit and vice versa? And if you have both, you have to get two different sets of safety barriers?
Okay. No. What we've done on the safer barrier, who had the mic? Whoever it is, ask that question. Excuse me. What we have for NASCAR, we'll have in one section of safer barrier 5 foams, pyramids. When the open wheel races, we pull out 3 because you need the compression. For motorcycles, that's beyond my pay grade. I don't know what they do. I mean, those guys are...
It is rigid for bikes.
You want it rigid?
No, it is rigid. It's not possible to do anything else. The point is the angle of impact. It's like, you know, the old debate, do we have to put an air fence there or not? The point is that it depends. If I have an edge-on impact at 90 degrees, is okay. But if I'm putting a soft barrier on a 15 degrees impact, it's worst. Because you have the bike to slide. You need the bike to slide, and the guy, about proactivity and reactivity. The fact is that many times I've been called by truck operators to defend them in lawsuits, and in one of them we had a fatalities on inflatable barrier that was not well positioned. It was just on a straight, and he fell, just touched it and flip over on the front, and he broke his neck. So the point is not, is it safe this one in respect of this one, to change configuration. We have to find and design solutions that are good for all the world. It's not about a race or a category in a race. It's an everyday activity. We have to put in safety the track as much as possible for all categories every day. Because it's not because there is a race that, okay, it's fair to put an air fence and it's fair to take it out for the track day of a motorcycle guy that is testing the day after. We have just to find the right solution. And this is the best way to improve the facility, to find the money, because we are not spending without knowing if it's wise to put there the money. Until now, we have just used the thumb. Okay, we go in a truck, we make an inspection. How many of you did an inspection with a calculation in his hand for bikes and cars? Is there somebody? No. It is anachronistic, you know. We are in 16. You just need to go and do an inspection, calculation in hands, and say, okay, here is good, here is not. We can improve it, not. Better not to do it, or better to do some. You have to give to yourself instruments to understand what you have. Because now you are just looking at a truck and you say, oh, beautiful. This is not safe, but don't tell to anybody. I know that in race controls in NASCAR, they are talking sometimes about slow-moving debris, because they are talking about turtles. Okay, somebody has got a turtles, maybe, that is got turtle. I don't know if I'm desperate. Okay, we have to say slow-moving debris to not be caught in liability. Why to hide this? Okay, just speak with numbers. Okay. Turtles. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, turtles.
Hi, my name is Lyra Kramer. I actually work in the defense industry, but I do race as a hobby. And I was curious, you guys have talked a lot about physical track safety, but for Scott, your organization, do you collaborate with the actual race directors and series for racecraft and rules and regulations on the track itself and how they relate to the track safety?
Yeah, absolutely. Ironically enough, I also am a race director. So it's part of a race director's job, obviously, is to go to a track inspection, take a look at some items, take a look at some areas, and see what is right and what is wrong. The problem is, I guess, is that I don't really know how to phrase this delicately, so I guess I can't. Some race directors aren't experts in track safety, but it's part of their responsibility. And I'm not putting my hand up saying that I am, because I'm both, but it's a difficult task. And you know, there's some unique guys in the world, Charlie Whiting for one, who's FIA race director, but also does track inspections because he's part of the Track Safety Commission. He does inspections here in the States. He doesn't typically do inspections where he races. Somebody else does that to try to make it a little bit more independent, I guess, as it were. But yeah, the collaboration between the local sanctioning body, whether it's the race director or the head of operations or whatever, is critical. Because they have ideas as well. I think the biggest thing, you know, and we all talk about it, is that safety in general, whether it's track safety, car safety, driver safety, it's all collaborative. It has to be. Because I don't think, you know, to phrase it in a way, I guess I've never seen an incident that's happened twice. Every incident is always different. Even if it looks exactly like the one you saw the last time, it's not, because something changed. So to get that collaborative effort, to get the educational process going and ask every person in the world, even somebody from the defense industry who could bring something to motorsports that we have no idea about. I think that's a big, big part of it. It's why you have conferences like this, to get ideas out and have conversations. So thanks for your question.
Good morning, Dave Deuce with Racetrack Engineering. This is sort of to Ray, but you two can probably help as well. You know, we work with the big leagues, but we try to take those ideas and filter them down to the short tracks in the U.S. And we know the safer barrier was designed for Indy cars and for NASCARs at speeds of 200 miles an hour. Is anybody building a barrier that's designed for a 1,500-pound car going 60 miles an hour in the middle of North Dakota? Is there anybody designing anything that's affordable for those guys at a quarter mile or 3/8 mile, around the country?
Not that I'm aware of. The 1,500-pound weight that you came up with, I think the open wheel cars are around 1,250, 1,350. So we're in that arena right there with safer barrier. As far as the cost, the problem is safer barriers and 8x8 tubing is. There are a few manufacturers, steel mills that make it, so it's hard to locate sometimes. In fact, we've gobbled up the whole industry right now. Steel people love us. Maybe there is. I'm not aware. We don't handle it. I'm sure there's somebody out there. Scott?
Very good point, Dave. It's something, real quick, our foundation's been in existence just a little over a year. It's not been a long time. It's something new that we're doing. But you hit on the next great startup idea. If somebody can come up with that, which is a low-cost barrier. I know Ray's working on it. There's no doubt about that. That's his business. But that's something we internally within our foundation, we talk about that every day. And the idea has been, and I have a couple of meetings this weekend, maybe meeting up, no different than what the University of Nebraska did with SAFER, is trying to tie in some university program with some very bright young students who can come up with some idea to do that. Because again, it's the cost, right? You know the effectiveness of the SAFER barrier. You know how the changing of the weights for the cars with the foam. We all know how that works. We all know how that's done. That's not the problem. It ends up, at the end of the day, it's the cost. And sorry to say that, but it's what's preventing people from doing it. So, and Ray's going to help me on that.
Back to the cost. To get a design for the cars you're speaking of, we need the sanctioning bodies or other teams to donate their cars so they can be tested. It's a very expensive process, but we will not sign off on safer barrier until it has been tested. So if we can get the cars that are running, after he won, grab that car, we'll ship it to Nebraska, and let's smack it up. And I mean, that's the real deal. That's how it is. It's quite an expensive deal.
A couple of things. As we mentioned, safety is a big deal. Just to let everybody know, safety is a big item going on during this conference. We've obviously got our friends next door at the ICMS, which is doing a medical conference for that. On Friday, they're actually doing in the 500 Ballroom. There's a racetrack safety program where crews from individual tracks and series are doing demos there on Friday. So that's a new thing which is going on for it. The other thing is we haven't really touched on, to these guys' benefit, is the litigation and legal aspects of this. We've covered that on other years. We left the attorneys in the audience this year instead of having them up on stage, so that's kind of a good thing. And we will go and deal next year, we haven't touched it yet, basically on insurance and risk mitigation. So we're going to have an insurance panel for next year to kind of go through, because those are things that, from a business perspective, deal with it. Cost is a thing that's really come up this year. One of the things which that the motorsports industry has been working through and through their lobbying efforts at the Motorsports Coalition and ACUS in there is on Capitol Hill. There's a tax bill that is related to the accelerated depreciation of motorsports facilities. And it's something that's been passed. They've been going through and working with their constituency trying to get it passed. One thing which I think I'm going to go back through and do and check with the hires at B is to see if there is a classification in there where safer technology and the barriers could be applied to this, and therefore then go and see if there is some type of financial incentive that could go in and help in the assistance of this technology or equipment that's already been put in. And one that would be for new installations, but maybe there's the ability to go back through and reclassify those assets so that then maybe you could go recapture some tax aspects to it. So again, those are some other ideas that have come up from this thing. And again, I just really want to thank you guys and really your audience, because this is the type of thing that as we get going, we all learn and kind of collaborate on.
One of the things that I want to encourage everybody throughout the day, again, we are touching on some of the most important aspects of each one of our panels. If we don't get to your question or another question pops up in the meantime, you have all the email information you need to ask these gentlemen a question direct. And we'll do our best part on Track Source Radio, on racetalkradio.com every Thursday night of trying to recap some of the mailbag input that we get throughout the year. One of the things that we're going to be doing here, also again, playing the game show host idea, is we get to go around the panel with one last statement. So since I started alphabetically with the beginning here down at the end, we'll go in reverse alphabetical order for the close. So Jarno, please, final statement.
Well, what I can say is that I already said everything. We are trying to... Turtle. Yeah. Cool name, Turtle. The point is that we are here to help. If you need something or just an advice, just to think what we think or we know, if you want that we explain you which kind of discount on the insurance in Europe our clients get because they have their own risk assessment. It is not the risk assessment that insurance does, but they can demonstrate to the insurance that they took in consideration probability and magnitude on their events. We are open to do it. The only thing is dialogue. Don't be shy, don't be scared, even between truck operators. You are different kingdoms, okay, but you can try to be together because the market anyway is big, and if each one of you grows, the market grows. And if you keep safe your clients, you will have more money to get from them. If your clients just broke us up or destroy cars or destroy themselves, it's not about litigation only and so on. It is that they need that money to recover their cars, their bikes, and themselves. So it's better to keep them healthy. That's it. It's like a mosquito, you know. It doesn't kill you because it needs your blood. Be the mosquito.
Ray.
Oh, man. I think if we have an assessment of our tracks, I think there's something to consider too, who you hire to do that. The days of designing our tracks, these are second generation, third generation, some of our facilities, and our grandfathers built them, and it worked then, it should work now. Cocktail napkins are a great way to start out, but they usually end up going to a design team who want to take it to the next level. But I think it's very key, and it's from a liability aspect. When you put your team together, is make sure there are a couple key factors: a resume, references, and their insurance. And I'll say that on the insurance because if you have the accident, you can spread out your exposure to the key people that you had involved in this. So if you have a designer, they have insurance. If you have another facilitator, make sure they have the insurance. Make sure they're bonded, because it's nice to have a support group around you. Not if, but when that shoe drops. And so you can kind of spread out a little bit of that. So get the right guys. It's like going to surgery. You don't want to go to the doctor that's done it for the first time. You want to do somebody that's done this again and again and again and has a dialogue with designers. This is not, like Bob Harrington last year said, it was a very interesting panel for the tracks that have asphalt surfaces. You just can't get a regular asphalt contractor to put down your track. You need a specialist, because how many have you gotten that specialist and your tracks are coming up? Your tracks are coming up. Get the right people, get the right team. Thank you very much.
Scott.
All very good things, and I have to talk to Jarno after the panel to find out what country he's from for all these analogies, because they're brilliant, by the way. They're brilliant. I think the biggest thing is that you're all here, and whether you're here to listen to this panel or panels later in the day, you're making an effort to better yourselves, to better your business, to think about it, and not to imply that you don't think about safety all the time. Because it's something that pops up all the time. But I guess from my standpoint, I implore you to think about it more often, because it's one of those deals where, again, as an example, how you build a tire pack could be a low-cost thing, but could make a massive improvement in your business and your facility. So I think the more you think about it, the more you are able to, reach out and ask questions and attend conferences like this. And just think about it. I guess that's the biggest favor for me that comes out of it, because it's something that obviously we do every day. You know, the thing about the Motorsport Safety Foundation for me is that I've been in this business for 20 years. It's a very small community, as everybody knows. And what happens is, and to put a kind of a serious note on it, the reason we do this, and the reason I do it personally, is because I want to try and help save my friends. Because I meet a lot of people and we all become very, very close. That's what it's all about. And if you're a local track operator and you have people that race at your track every Saturday night for 40 nights a week, they're your friends. And that's kind of what it's about, is we are a small community. It is an emotional sport. That's what we try to do. So, you know, think about it more often, ask questions, reach out to people. You know, that's, I guess, my ask, if I'm allowed to do so. So, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
I learned a lot from this panel, and track safety and keeping our racers' safety safer is a big pet peeve of mine, because I've been at the track taking photographs and covering a race when we've had a fatality, and I lost my desire to go to the track for a long, long time. That's why we have to have a safety attitude. We have to hire the experts, because you're protecting yourself, but you're also protecting your biggest assets at the track. Your racers are your stars, and think ahead, because if you are safe in what you do, you're not going to get the bad media that's going to kill you in the press. Cost does matter though, folks. Find a sponsor to pay for it, just like we do for everything else in this sport. And also, and number one, the best practices concept from programs like Race with Restraint with the Motorsport Safety Foundation. Excellent idea. I think it should be applied to racetracks all over America, not just road courses, but the oval tracks as well. Learn from our past events, but use technology to predict the future bad problems we're going to have. So I would love to hear a round of applause for our track safety.